Ooh, getting back into the swing of things after TF Nation 2018, it's time for another look at the art of Transformers. Something I touched on in the previous episode is the fact that, in the same way that the original character designs created for the 1984 commercials were revised for use in the cartoon, even the other designs that were made for the cartoon itself underwent small revisions between their initial conception and their appearance on screen. In addition to the examples I talked about last time, some others include Wheeljack, whose initial design was missing his characteristic shoulder fins, Sunstreaker, early revisions of whom had an alternate design for his upper arms and the rocket boosters on his shoulders, and Rumble and Frenzy, who were initially drawn with an inaccurate gun design that had to be changed to better match the toys. Well, the same was true for the other new cast members that were introduced in the cartoon's first season: Skyfire, the Dinobots, the Insecticons, and the Constructicons, characters from the 1985 toy line introduced into the series ahead of the toy's release. These new characters' designs were noticeably less stylized than those that had come before them, being based more closely on the appearance and proportions of their toys, retaining things that the earlier designs had removed, like visible wheels in robot mode and less human-looking faces. But that proved to be a problem in the case of Skyfire, or Jetfire as he was originally known. Now you can check out my video, The Basics on Jetfire, for the full story on this one, but to put it simply, due to legal complications surrounding the ownership of the Jetfire toy in Japan, his initial character design, which appeared in the animated segment of the commercial that advertised his toy, had to be renamed and completely redesigned for the cartoon, such that he bore essentially no resemblance to the figure. Early versions of the Insecticons and the Constructicons designs gave the team members individual eyes, instead of the more toy-accurate visors that their finished designs would use. These outdated models would on rare occasions be used by mistake in the cartoon or the Marvel comic. Most notable among them is the Constructicons' combined form of Devastator. The version of his design with individual eyes actually appeared with great frequency throughout the cartoon, with episodes often featuring both, cutting back and forth between the designs from shot to shot. And his eyes weren't the only thing that would change about Devastator. In the cartoon's second season, his colours were changed too. Look close and you'll see that the colours of his torso and pelvis were altered, while the window on his collarbone and the top of his chest plate became miscoloured in green instead of the correct purple. This, errors and all, was how Devastator would appear in all subsequent episodes of the series animated by the Japanese studio Toei. But the South Korean animation studio ACOM seemingly never got the updated models, and they continued to render Devastator in his Season 1 colours. ACOM were pretty infamous for mistakes like this. I'll talk a little bit more about the various oddities that they introduced into the series in a later episode. The revisions the Dinobots were subject to weren't very noticeable on the whole, with only a few small details being changed here and there. Mostly, it just seemed to be about simplification. Compare the revisions of Grimlock's dinosaur mode, and see how the finalized design erases the robot mode chest detailing from its stomach. Or Swoop, whose final robot design erases a variety of small details all across his body. You might want to pause the video and play Spot the Difference. A more interesting case is Snarl. On his initial design, certain cosmetic details didn't match up between his robot and dinosaur modes, so his finalized design modified the details on his robot mode legs to correct the contradiction. Now, a far more noticeable change was performed on Grimlock's robot mode. He first appeared in the cartoon with an early, rather soft head design, which by his second appearance had been replaced with an updated design that was more accurate to his toy. It would be used for the rest of the cartoon, but animation errors would see it and all the team's early designs reappear on occasion. The Marvel comic would consistently use the early designs for the entirety of its run, never updating the Dinobots' appearances, which included drawing Grimlock with his early inaccurate head right up until 1991. But Grimlock wasn't the only character to have his head design revised. The entire cast of the cartoon actually got a makeover of this variety as the show went on, as new close-up reference images of the Autobots and Decepticons' heads were created. The designs remained fundamentally the same, they just became a little more stylized, sharper and more angular with more dynamic lines. Compare the new flaring shape of Ironhide's helmet, for example, or Optimus Prime's beefed up, squared off mouthplate and cheek guards. These designs would become standard for the second season of the show, which also introduced its own host of brand new characters whose designs all have quirks of their own, which is what I'll be taking a look at next time. If you're enjoying the art of Transformers, please give that like button a click. I'm still in post-TF Nation recovery, but I'll be back soon with a new episode of The Basics, and until then, share your thoughts in the comments, please subscribe, and if you're in a position to, please do consider supporting the channel on Patreon.